Hello, hello, and welcome to the Journal Star Sportswriters podcast. I'm your host, Adam Duvall, joined always by small school football beat writer Stan Morris, sports editor Wes Hewitt. Well,
the game.
We're looking at the second round, recapping it. What we learned from the second round. Washington 23, Springfield Sacred Heart Griffin 21. Wes, you were there. Where were you?
I was there.
Where were you placed in?
Unfortunately, I was in the opposite end zone of the catch, the throw, the stand, as Cleve called it. Yeah, unfortunately. But, you know, my son and I were up on the fence on the opposite side. But so we got that angle of it. It was still exciting from there. But, yeah, it was an incredible performance all the way around. Got down 14-0 early. Still really didn't feel like they were being overmatched, even though they were down. A couple of just big plays from SHG, and felt like Washington's offense was sort of finding a way, slowly but surely. And then the defense started getting pressure on Sweetland, and they had to go to the run more. And then Washington's run defense pretty stout. So once they got pressure to Sweetland, and they had to go to the run, stop the run, and slowed down SHG and then Washington's offense was able to then finally kind of find some seams and get some big plays. And Fisher, oh my, what a performance! It just seemed like he made the right decision almost all the time. There were a few, I wouldn't call them drops, but he made good throws where SHG made a good play, or a guy, it would just tip off a fingertip here or there. But even still, he finished with decent game. But
176 passing for 3 touchdowns, 81 rushing, and he had an 18-yard reception too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was on 4th and 5 or 6, I think. Yeah, that was just great play calling too. And I want to say that they set that up earlier in the game too. They kind of ran the same play, but the guy actually ran with the ball instead of throwing it, if I recall correctly. Just a great game. Executed all around. A few mistakes. They cleaned up the mistakes. They had a few early that helped SHG a bit, but they cleaned those up. And SHG was the one who started making a couple mistakes to give them some, especially on special teams. Washington's special teams really set up a couple of drives late. Sam Walter had one, and then I believe Durr had one, or number 2022. I don't know who that is. He had a nice return there to set up the final
at the end,
touchdown, right? But yeah, just all around. I mean, just really, they never panicked. It seemed like even when they were down 14-0, it just really seemed like they stayed level-headed, stayed their game, trusted their kids, and great finish.
Seemed like he was getting they were getting a lot of pressure on him too.
Yeah,
but he was still able to get around the pocket and find something.
Yeah, it's kind of what we said last week. He was going to have to make some plays, some throws, and he did, man. He was just really, really nice.
And I think to hold SHG to 290 total yards and 21 points, I think that's a huge – I mean, back-to-back weeks with New London Providence, the shutout there, 21 points against SHG.
Right, and it really didn't feel like 21, if that makes sense. It kind of felt like the two early were kind of just like breakdowns and not necessarily earned. And it wasn't until the late that one that kind of was the one that I want to say the final 3 quarters is when they really only scored that last touchdown. So just a great defensive performance all around.
And we'll actually talk more about this game. But we have 4 other games that we want to touch on, all involving area teams. Maybe the biggest surprise was Aurora Christian 41, Princeville 0. Aurora Christian limited the Princes to 115 total yards. They had 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. I wrote down here, Princeville had given up just 52 points all season and gave up 27 points in the second half alone. Stan, what did
41
when
total,
you saw when you saw that score? What did you think?
I was really surprised. I mean, it was a 14-0 game there at halftime, and that one of those was a pick 6. I mean, it was 7-0, and then that the second half, was just. I mean, having Adam Sneddon get hurt. Well, I mean, this was kind of eerily similar to last year in the playoffs that they, up against going to Forreston, and Sneddon gets hurt in that game too and goes out. But actually, he played mostly through that game with a kind of a separated shoulder. But this time, they had to kind of juggle things around with him not being there. He only gets about 30 yards, rushing. I thought that they would be able to, move the ball against his. Because Aurora Christian has given up some points, but again, they're playing some, 3A, 4, or they're playing 4A, 5A level competition, right. And that just shows, what kind of competition that they're playing, and they really showed something defensively that, I was surprised to see. And
does Princeville have? Surprised they didn't. They have a passing game at all, or no?
I mean. Not to the extent that they can really go. I mean, they can more so than they have been the last few years. With Butterfield with being a couple year starter, but it just didn't work out for them. And when you got your main right. thing you do, we talked about that before, being mostly one dimensional, that kind of hurts you,
especially to get deeper in the playoffs, because this is a quarterfinal. Semifinal level matchup, right. Presumably, because Aurora Christian dropped down a little bit because of their losses, but they're certainly a better quality team than their record indicated.
Oh, absolutely,
and it's always tough, as Washington showed last week, as we talked about before this podcast with Farmington and Dunlap, and anytime you can have any sort of balance with your offense, when you hit up against those walls, that's.
And you get into one of those games where it becomes a snowball kind of effect,
right.
too.
Oh, yeah.
When you get down 3 scores, and then it's like, oh, man.
Yeah.
And then, how can you and then it kind of, rolls.
You might try to push a little too hard.
Right.
And then you just make more mistakes, and it gets worse.
Make it worse. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that Aurora Christian offense, 41 points, 188 rushing yards, 292 passing yards. I mean, that's
300 pass yards from a 1A program. It's hard to defend. I assume Princeville hasn't seen that type of passing attack this year.
No, right. They gave up like 200 yards, I think, to Ridgewood, but they haven't seen that kind of and a couple of receivers that Aurora Christian had that are really, really good. So,
right.
Yeah.
We had 3 other games. Byron beat Princeton 28-0. Princeton was held to 91 total yards. I mean, that came off of a game where they just torched Elmwood Brimfield both on the ground and through the air.
Right.
The report that I read, they were missing 5 starters to injury. They took the ball down to the 2-yard line on their opening drive.
Right.
Got stopped, and Byron marches.
He had a bad snap, I think, and just couldn't capitalize on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of those things. The beginning of a game like that against a team that's number 1 in the state, you score a touchdown early, gives you really a lot of confidence there, and maybe the whole thing changes. But
sure.
Byron just showed from that point on. I mean, they've been kind of a running machine, and were able to pass the ball a little bit too, I think, this time.
Back down to 2A, Sterling Newman 46, Illini West 14. I think after last week, this was another kind of a head-scratching score to me. I mean, Illini West rolled through the Prairie Land, and they match up against, another perennial power program, and, give up 360 rushing yards on the ground. And Nick Voorhees, who came in averaging 140, just, managed 66 yards.
Yeah, and even Sterling Newman's coach was kind of surprised at that they were able to do that. They never expected to, go in and do that. But Sterling Newman's obviously has been a powerhouse the last several years. I mean, with what they're doing and
you can just look up and down. I mean, I looked at the brackets today and the quarterfinals up and down the state, and the seed and the record almost feel irrelevant in a lot of these classes, because it's like you just see the same schools.
Right.
You see like a 14 seed next to somebody, and they're 6-4 or something, or 7-4, and it's just like the level of competition that these teams play varies so much that a team like Sterling Newman team like Lionel West. I mean, I'm not knocking Lionel West. They played well, but I'm talking about just you really can't tell how good a team is until you see tape on them. You see them against looking at just the raw seed and the raw records. Really don't tell the tale here on a lot of these matchups.
I mean, at 5-4, Joliet Catholic.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's.
Herscher 17, Hall 14. Red Devils went up 8-0 early, but then there was 2 interceptions in the first half, limited to 101 total yards in the first half. Sounded like Jimmy D'Angelo, their quarterback, making his third or fourth
Yeah, something
career
like that.
start.
Yeah.
Week 8, I think.
Yeah. 47 yards. Third quarter touchdown made it, 17-14, but fumbled fourth quarter hook and ladder, ended Hall's drive. Hall's another team that sounded like they had some opportunities and just, weren't able to cash in there.
Right. Yeah. And Herscher's another one of those teams. So they've got 4 losses. And,
Right. Exactly. There you go.
And it's the competition level that they face. I mean, they've got 2 teams that they lost to that are still in the playoffs. Lyle is one that's in 3A. They play Byron, so we'll see what happens there. But they also, lost to a team, Coal City, who's in the 4A playoffs.
Right.
So.
Helen Cole said, yeah.
Yeah.
Some big-time schools. All right, moving on to our next segment. Close calls. In 3A, it was Monmouth Roseville 33, Eureka 28. Stan, you and I were texting a little bit about this game, and
it's kind of wishing I was there too. It's like, man, it would have been fun to see that game. It looked like a really good game, and then going kind of a back and forth game actually. Monmouth Roseville gets up 21-7, and Eureka shows some fight and get back into it, and a few turnovers. Some things that happened there that maybe a little uncharacteristic, but that those things happen. Going right down to it. That went right down to the wire on that one.
Monmouth Roseville's Jacob Wolf with a Peanut Tillman-like punch-out.
Right. And Austin Johnson, their defensive tackle, was able to recover that one. Yeah. And Eureka had a chance. They had one of those receivers. The ball kind of bounced off of them too. So, Monmouth Roseville made some big plays on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, the more I'm reading about this Monmouth Roseville team, it just seems like they're pretty tough. They just seem like they scrap and just play until the end. And defensively, they just seem like a team that just really gets after it. Even if they might give up a few points, they just seem like somebody who's going to create turnovers and create big plays and just keep fighting.
Yeah, that's what I talked to Jeremy Adelson, their coach, and he was like, it wasn't the best game that they played, all around, but they really showed some fight. It showed some grit. They're making the big plays when they had to. They had a couple fourth downs on drives that they were able to get the first down, keep it going, and score, and get that 2 touchdown lead back into the fourth quarter. But props for Eureka for they were facing 90 yards, to try to go in for a winning touchdown, and got all the way down to the 19 before that fumble happened. So, they just had a great year too. They have nothing to be ashamed of, Eureka, and what they did. But
and they'll be hungry for next year, especially they don't have any seniors on the line. Matt Martin,
right?
Showed what he can do this year, and that should be
That's one thing that Jason Bachman, when I talked to him last night, said we got a lot of hungry kids that got off that field. They got off that field really hungry. They wanted to get back in the weight room like the next day, and he said, "No, we're going to take a week off." But it was nice. He was like, it was nice to see.
Well, and that seems like a team that too, with bringing back so many kids, somebody might hit the radar of the top of 3A next year when it comes to the ranks. When it comes to that many returning kids, a 91 season. Or 92, I guess, and then is it somebody who might end up in the top 5 or 6 ranked statewide in 3A, which then of course makes you
tough thing is, and you're in the same conference as GCMS and Tri-Valley, and it's kind of hard to go undefeated. And both of those teams are still alive in the playoffs.
All right, our third segment of the cast, just one thing, a note, quote, stat, whatever, number that, stood out from you from the second round. Wes, let's start with you.
We'll go back to the Washington game. It was kind of funny. It was interesting. I watched, even though I haven't watched a high school football game from beginning to end, like a lot. Washington game was one of the first times I watched one of the season from beginning to end, and I was in the end zone with my son, and it was 14-0 SHG, and Ryan Castle comes out. They get hit for fourth down, and Ryan Castle comes out, line up a 22-yard field goal. And I don't know who they are. A couple Washington parents and a guy sort of grumbled, like, "Oh, settle for 3. We can't be settling for 3." And Castle nails it and makes it 14-3. And I'm thinking to myself, like, that shows me that Daryl Crouch trusts his team. He trusts what they were doing. He trusts that they're going to be in this game. I mean, if he felt like we're down 14-0, they're going to steamroll us, we got to score a touchdown here. That's what he probably would have done. But to me, that shows like that 3 points is going to matter. And I made a sort of a tongue-in-cheek comment to those parents. I said that 3 points is going to decide this game, and sort of chuckled because my son was there, and it did. I even tweeted about it like an hour before the end of the game, because it's just those. Daryl's such a great coach, and to sort of know, like I said earlier, about being patient and knowing what your team can do, and seeing on trusting your coaches and kids who are telling you what they're seeing, to know, hey, those touchdowns and scoring us, we can fix that. We can get pass rush on him. We can fix that. And those 3 points, that's the difference in the game. Instead, that great pass and catch by Walter, instead of winning the game, you got to kick an extra point to go to overtime and figure it out. And in high school and overtime, it's 4 downs from the 10, and it's a coin flip at that point. So instead of coin flipping for your life, you earned it. Ryan Castle had a field goal, and you went down. And then they punched it in right before halftime too, to make it 14-10 instead of 14-7. Mm-hmm. It just changed the entire complexion of the game. Just one little kick, one little kick for one little thing.
Well, reading that and seeing that it took me back to our conversation about 4 or 5 weeks ago about programs that do have. Yeah. I mean, Princeville. Mm-hmm. Just a kicker is just kind of a weapon that's there when you need it. Right. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Daryl, trusted, okay, this is what's best for our team.
Well, it's about the 3 phases. I mean, obviously we talk about offense a lot, mm-hmm. right? And we talk about defense in enough. Defensive line was great for Washington. Second half got a ton of pressure. But then it's the special teams too. It's the kick return game. You have the couple of key kick returns to set up scores. You got the field goal that was the difference in the game, and anytime that you're just a little better than your opponent in those things, I mean that's just a huge advantage to have.
Stan, how about you? Just one thing for you.
I'm going with a number, and that being 0. And you kind of touched on this. 0 linemen that Eureka graduates. I mean, not just starters. 0. They had no linemen who were seniors. Wow. This year, so they have that, not only the starters, but they have the depth of the backup guys even on that, and 17 starters coming back, maybe 18 with some of the things that they do on the defensive side of the ball too. So wow. Yeah, that's nice to have when you're a 9-2 team. Similar to like what Princeville was last year. They had so many of those guys coming back and had a great run this year too. Yeah. So,
my just one thing comes from Washington coach Daryl Crouch, who told Cleve and the Eve, our Dave Aminian, who will be doing sort of a nightly Nick in the AM, Cleve and the Eve, to beat 2 Catholic power teams is the greatest thing ever for us.
Yeah, they've kind of been their bugaboo. Ran into some JCAs in the past, and
I mean 5 years ago with that and with
SHG, right?
SHG. So Yeah, I thought that was a
I believe Colton Underwood's career I was up there in Joliet when that ended, and I think it was a sound beating there as well. So, but they got the horses now. They can they can hang with those big boys.
All right, planning preview. Preview of the quarterfinals, Saturday, 2 p.m. Second seed, Washington 11-0 at 11 seed, Crete Monet 8-3. Wes, you said
this Crete Monet team is very interesting.
Research and
yeah, they're not as I said earlier about records and whatnot. This is not your typical 11 seed. Their three games they've lost are to Lincoln Way East, Morris, and Brother Rice. Lincoln Way East might be the best team in the state, period, regardless of class, and Brother Rice is not too far behind. Morris, they actually have a common opponent, Washington, and them. They lost, I believe, to Morris by 1, I think, Crete Monet did, and Washington beat them by, I think, 7 or 14. I can't remember which. Crete Monet is certainly a beatable team, don't get me wrong, but they're really dynamic. Just watch some of the highlights from the Chatham game, and they just slinging around the field. They can run it too. Very balanced. Had almost 600 yards of offense, 319 passing, 260 rushing against Chatham. Their coach, John Konecki, is kind of an interesting guy. He's been there for about 10 years. Head coach for about 5, but he actually used to coach USA Women's football and the Chicago Force, like a women's league.
Okay.
He's a great football mind. Done all kinds of stuff with their offense. We were talking about LaCron Treadwell, NFL receiver, went to Crete Monet. They have a lot of great athletes. Do a lot of stuff on offenses that's going to keep Washington on its toes, for sure. Actually, Konecki, I think, even worked with, if his LinkedIn profile is correct, I think he worked with like the Swedish team even back like 5 to 8 years ago, like helping them get like a American football program started. He's a Brother Rice grad. Just an interesting cat. Just a lot of really good offensive ideas. And Crete Monet's been somebody. Obviously, they didn't shy away from playing anybody this year.
No, not at all.
And they kind of rolled through most of their sort of South Suburban, the Kankakee, Rich Central type areas. They played a team from Michigan, beat them. And then they diffused a Bloomington team that was playing really, really well in the first round.
One of the hottest teams coming into the
and they beat them by, I think, 41-19, I believe. So this is a team that's playing, two teams that are playing really, real well right now.
A little interesting note about the Chatham-Glenwood Crete Monet game. There was 3 go-ahead touchdowns in the final 142.
Oh, yeah.
Crete Monet trailed 33-21 with 2:02 left in the third quarter.
Yep.
And, I mean, Wes, you touched on it. It's just kind of that.
Yeah, and these plays just looked crazy. They looked like Washington's game-winning play, like all 3 of the touchdowns they scored, where it was just running around, stepping up, making – and that's going to be a test for Washington. They're certainly going to flush quarterback out of the pocket. It's just a matter of then keeping him from making big plays. They got a receiver, Ricky Johnson, who had almost 200 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns against Chatham, including the game winner. Trayvon Rudolph stepped in and played quarterback and made some big plays late too. And they're gonna have their hands full. But again, I think I like what Washington's line play, but it's certainly a test.
And even with Sam Walter bottled up, so to speak, on the ground against SHG, you don't know what he'll be able to do.
Right, and that's what makes Washington so dangerous. Is Fisher showed that if you have to lean on him, he can make plays, obviously. Mm-hmm. And if Walter gets some seams, then that takes even more pressure off of him. So I would presume Fisher's confidence level, his confidence XP got a few little boosts this week, just because of the way he played. So now if he can lean on Walter and have some success this week, and not have to make every play against SHG,
Right.
but a few, maybe two or three. Yeah, it could be a fun game.
Staying over in 3A, we have 6 seed Monmouth Roseville 9-2 at 15 seed. Another one of those 15.
Yeah, C doesn't really.
Yeah.
No.
7-4 Herscher.
Yeah.
2 p.m. Saturday. Sounded like, Herscher got to the quarterback a lot. What do you see in this game, and what have you kind of researched regarding Herscher?
Yeah, Herscher's got certainly a stud in the backfield with Matt Dorsey. He's got over 1,500 yards, and they've got a quarterback in Carter Hendricks who can throw the ball a bit, and he can also run it. He's similar to Matt Martin, kind of. He's got about 1,000 yards in both those things. Running and passing, and they've got a 6'7" receiver out there that certainly Monmouth Roseville is going to have to keep an eye on there too. Max Becker, he's their top receiver, over 500 yards in passing there. So and again, this is a Herscher team that has been playing some good competition and that kind of thing. But I mean, Monmouth Roseville. First round, they beat Wilmington, which is a team that handled Herscher in the regular season pretty well. 63-28, I think, was the final score of that one. But playoffs are a different animal, and that was several weeks back. But still,
going on the road in the playoffs too.
Yeah, and they both are competitive. I mean, with Hall about the same score. I mean. Monmouth Roseville beat Hall 24-20 in the regular season.
So they played the
same. Yeah. So
I was looking forward to that potential matchup.
That Three Rivers matchup just didn't quite get there, but it should be interesting. I mean, Monmouth Roseville again is one of those teams that's got that huge line. They've got 4 guys who are 290 to 320 on the line, so they've got some beef on the line there that can get C.J. Daniel. Get him some running room there, and Jamani Skinner is one of those guys that can anytime he gets the ball he can take it to the house. I mean, defensively and offensively and defensively, he got a big interception for them against Eureka in that game, and he's a kid that can really make some plays, and so certainly Herscher's going to have to keep an eye out for him as well. But that could be a good one, real good one. I mean, Monmouth Roseville certainly is playing their best game. They've won 9 out of their last 10. I mean, they're really on a roll there. So should be interesting. It's always kind of hard to go on the road, but they showed they can do that too, and win on the road in Eureka.
All right, moving on to the picks segment. Not a very good week for us last week. All of us went 1-2. Stan, the leader in the clubhouse, 3-4 in the playoffs. He went Washington, Princeville, Eureka, as did Wes and myself. We're both 1-6. First pick, then tell us why. Washington at Crete Monte. Wes.
Well, you know my rule. After that Providence fiasco.
Oh yeah.
Washington.
I
like. And I think I'd pick him anyway. I think it's a team that just is playing really, really well right now. I mean, Monet's going to score some points, I think. Again, I mean, as SHG did, I see a similar type score. I honestly don't. I could see, something in the 28, 20, 21 range, that type of thing. Again, I think Washington's going to have more success running the ball than they did against SHG, obviously. But Fisher's going to have to make some plays, and he will. Again, these games, you get down to the quarterfinals of state, 2 great teams, it's going to come down to who makes fewer mistakes. And if Washington can they cleaned up stuff late in the game. They weren't having the dumb penalties and a couple things that plagued them early that set up some SHG touchdowns. But Mooney will be a test. They're going to go there. That's always tough. It's a sort of a grass field that's kind of out. It isn't nice of a setup as Babcock. So that's going to. I honestly don't know if that's going to favor Washington or not. I can see it might favor Washington if the game's a little slower. Because Mooney, looking at their highlights over the year, they make big plays, fast athletes, very dynamic offense. So could turn into a shootout potentially. Something in that like when Washington played Morton on the turf and it turned into a 50-35 type of game. I can see that happening. But again, I think both coaches are smart enough to play a little close to the vest, and because Mooney even only had 20 points until they needed to score a lot more to win. So I think it's one of the they're going to try to keep it close, run the ball short in the game, and get out with a win. So I like Washington.
Stan, pick. Tell me why.
Same. I'm going Washington. A lot of those same reasons too. And Crete Monet. I mean, the big thing, probably one of the big things that they're going to have to keep from is those big plays. So it looks like they've got the potential to make some really big plays. And if you can hold down those big plays and you can keep those turnovers to a minimum or none, and even though you're on the road, you stay, disciplined and play your game, and that's kind of what Washington has done most of the season. So I'm going Washington.
I will also pick Washington. I think Sam Walter is going to have a big game and kind of a bounce back for him. But yeah, he'll be gearing to go.
It'll be interesting. Washington will certainly get pressure on Cremoney's passing game. Then it's going to come down to the Washington defensive backs, and I thought Fisher played a great game against SH, especially in the second half. At defensive back as well. I think it just seemed like they did a really good job of just changing what SHG wanted to do. So if they can avoid Crete Monet having those sort of fluky type of like run out of the pocket and finding some open guy who has to come back and do like I said, if they can just stay disciplined like Stan said and do their jobs, they should win this game.
All right, Stan, let's start with you. Monmouth Roseville at Herscher. Give me a pick. Tell me why.
I'm going to go with the Titans. Remember the Titans, right? Yeah, I just think they're really got things going, certainly in the right direction. They've got that a large line to lean on, and they've got a dynamic playmaker in Jamani that can get them points when they need points. Just get that guy the ball and see what happens. So yeah, I'm gonna go in Monroe's.
All right, Wes.
Yeah, Monroe. This has. I've done this long enough to sort of get this weird feeling in my gut. This has a little bit of a Cinderella type of feel to it. The team does. Type of winning a couple more games and getting down to Champaign, and what happens. It just feels like it's just one of those. I feel like a little magic bean type of putting things together, getting punches and getting turnovers and big plays at the right time, and just having the right mindset. And it also helps you get big fat dudes on the line. That helps too.
Right.
But yeah, and really fast guys playing receiver and running back. But it feels like it has that. I don't know. It has that little sheen to it, that little sort of magic thing they have going right now.
Yeah, and Jeremy, at the beginning of the year, he said, "This is probably my best team that I've had." He kind of felt going into with all that senior leadership. I mean, a team that didn't make the playoffs last year, but then he's like, they 3-year starters, seniors, good line, good playmakers, and he had a good feeling even at the beginning of the season, but now they're really showing that right now.
Right.
I think I'm going with Monmouth Roseville too, and I know this is unrelated, but Monmouth Roseville's soccer team were runner-up at state last year. And I just feel sometimes that, whatever it is, that school swagger or confidence. Mojo, yeah. That's what
the Monroe's mojo?
Yeah, there you go. The Monroe's mojo.
I'm out.
They're gonna ride that, and yeah, I'm with you too. All right, we have one bonus this week. Takes us to Class 4A, 4-seed Rochester, 10-1. Their lone loss was to SHG at number 1 seed Taylorville, 11-0. Other than
Taylorville used to be in the Central State 8, is that correct? With Rochester, and then they moved. I thought that was correct. Maybe I'm mistaken.
No, you're right.
I am okay. So I thought. So 2 former conference mates going at it.
I'll start.
Starting this one?
Yeah, I'll start.
All right.
I'm going Rochester big.
Whoa.
Big. I base that on IVC played Taylorville. Scored 30 on.
30 on them?
Yeah, I don't know. Second half, their starters are resting or whatever, but IVC, who needed 4 wins to get in, puts up 30. I say Rochester big. Stan?
I don't know how you can bet against Rochester or go against with what they've just continued to do. I mean, that 4 seed again is just like, it's Rochester.
Right.
I mean, I know Taylorville is unbeaten, and they've got a great offensive attack, but I can't go against Rochester either.
Wes, how about you?
Yeah, Rochester. The only loss was that sort of anomaly where it got Ken Leonard's record win, and it wasn't an anomaly. It seemed like they got whipped that game against SSG.
45-7.
Yeah, but the rest of their scores have been great. I think and again, it goes back to what we're talking about. The Sterling Newmans, the Coal Cities, these names you just see every year, regardless of the record. They always seem to be in the quarterfinals. They have coaches who know how to coach at this level, who know how to get what they need out of their kids. So I like Rochester here.
All right, our final segment, and we decided, right? No going forward.
I don't think we're going to. We only have 2 teams.
We do only have 2 teams. Yeah, Monmouth, Roseville, and Washington. I think we've used up a lot of those position players. But I will. Wes takes the playoff title despite getting 16.95 points.
Jimmy
D'Angelo had
Jimmy.
47 passing yards, 41 rushing yards for 6.45 points. Nick Voorhees, I touched on that before, Illini West, he had 66 rushing yards. Cole Ludoff, who all 3 of us had 39 reception yards for 3.9 points.
Was it Ludoff who was the other guy in the end zone?
He was, yeah.
Who I think Caleb was actually throwing the ball to?
Yeah.
I don't know, though.
Yeah.
Because Walter waved his hand.
Right.
Walter's the one who waved his hand, but the pass looked like it was kind of...
I sure didn't see him.
It was just a flash. a flash.
Yeah, and then the defensive back certainly thought he was throwing it to I think it was Ludoff, the other guy. And that's kind of what freed Walter, because I don't think the DB saw him.
No.
Saw Walter, yeah.
Stan had 35.9 points. Caleb Fisher, huge, 27.7 points, 176 passing, 3 touchdowns through the air, 81 rushing yards, and 18 receiving yards. Adam Snedden, who I had as well, had 35 rushing yards, 8 receiving yards for 4.3 points. And I won the second week of the playoffs, 39.8 points, thanks to Matt Martin, who had 256 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 38 rushing yards with a TD for 31.6. I also had Adam Snedden, 4.3, and Cole Ludoff, 3.9. All right. Two teams less. 2 teams left. Wes, where are we going to be on Saturday, or who's going to be there?
Stan Morris will be
Stan?
in Crete with the Washington Panthers. We're going to let our sister paper in Galesburg. We'll be with Monmouth Roseville.
Okay.
Covering that. Got a lot of irons in the fire Saturday with all kinds of different sports. We got. So we're going to let Galesburg handle Monroe's.
Perfect. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at PJ Star Sports. Join the conversation. Hashtag PGS Preps. We will be back next week to talk about Washington and Monmouth Roseville. For sports editor Wes Hewitt, small school football beat writer Stan Morris, our producer Matt Dayhoff, I'm your host Adam Duvall. Bye for now.